What supplements should you take every day and why? Today, we're going to walk you through the 5 basic products we recommend to all of our patients and give some basic information as to why we feel this way. First up, with any supplement, like we mentioned in other videos, is third-party certification. You absolutely have to have this. This is the only way that you can know what you're taking is what you think it is, that there's no harmful ingredients, and it's on the proper amounts listed in the label. That's always the first step. We personally recommend NSF certified, and for athletes who may be tested, NF certified for sport, which makes sure that there's no banned substances in there, as they test for approximately 270 substances that are not allowed to be used in professional sports or college sports. The first actual product we recommend for all of our patients is actually a probiotic. Over the last 15 years, the amount of information coming out on the bacteria in your body, often referred to as your microbiota, is constantly growing in an exponential fashion. And that's because the bacteria in your body do almost everything in a sense. They're like little versions of you, in fact. And that's a good thing because a lot of the things that you eat, that you intake into your body, they actually process it for you or before you. So when it gets to your turn, it's in a more readily digestible, absorbable form. Some other examples of why it matters is that more than half of your immune system takes place in your gut, as well as more than half of the serotonin in your body is also produced in your gut. And as most people know, serotonin is what typically makes us feel good. It's one of the main neurotransmitters in our emotional health and nervous system. So when we take care of our gut, it takes care of us, whether it's helping us absorb and digest nutrients better, having better bathroom habits, also helping with a better immune system so we don't get sick as much, as well as helping to boost our emotional mood through the neurotransmitters like serotonin. So probiotics are always going to be the first one. We recommend taking it every day. I personally recommend taking it about a half hour after the largest meal of the day or the meal that contains the most fiber. Because typically when we talk about probiotics, we want to talk about prebiotic, which is the fiber. And that's because the probiotic needs the fiber to help it basically grow and assimilate in your body. So that's always the first product we recommend. The next one is going to be a multivitamin. This is kind of the idea that let's check as many boxes as possible. Our personal feeling is that a lot of people have a hard time eating a healthy diet, especially on a daily basis. With work, stress, whatever it might be, we miss meals, we have to eat out, we have to snack, we have to eat what's available. Multivitamin can kind of help fill in the gaps. We use a 2-a-day multivitamin, so it's actually 2 capsules as 1 dose. And our recommendation is actually take 1 capsule twice a day. That way you're spreading it out throughout the day, letting your body absorb a little bit versus a lot at once, and also helping you to round out multiple meals instead of just 1 meal. Again, for that, we want to help boost the body, give it what it needs. A lot of these vitamins and minerals act as cofactors with our enzymes, so they help the enzymes work properly. It also is important for energy production, cellular division, and part of our immune system as well. All requires cofactors, which is another name for vitamins and minerals in our body. So that's an important concept to be considered. We also briefly want to touch on the idea that in many places, the food that you have, the way it's actually grown, it may not have the highest amount of nutrients possible. What I mean by that is when you grow vegetables and fruits, most of the nutrients in that actually come from the soil. And because we're trying to maximize the output of the soil and we're not allowing it to rest in between crops, a lot of times those soils can start to become depleted, which means the amount of vitamins and minerals in the soil that the plant can assimilate into the foods becomes diminished over time. So although you're eating an orange and may not necessarily have been the healthiest orange, which means the amount of vitamin C in it, for example, may not be as optimal as some other versions of it. So another concept we educate patients on, if you learn more about the food complex in the United States, definitely not all the manufacturing process or the growing process for foods are the same. And that's kind of why we recommend using a multivitamin among the other examples we were given here. The third product that rounds out the first 3, in our opinion, is always going to be a protein supplement, usually whey in this case. Whey is very well digested, very assimilated, it's fairly accessible and easy to use. The reason why we always want our patients to take a protein supplement is proteins or amino acids are actually the building blocks of life. Basically everything in your body is made out of protein. There aren't that really many exceptions actually. Your enzymes, your proteins, your immune system, your nervous system, your muscle fiber, your skin fiber, all these things are made of proteins. And so it's pretty easy to understand that if you don't get enough protein, your body may not be able to optimally make, reproduce, replenish, recover, repair, all these different aspects. I mean, your body is quite large, and obviously it's going to take a good amount of input to help that. Another point that we always like to talk about, again, is going back to your emotional health and your neurotransmitters. That's because most of the neurotransmitters are actually made of amino acids. And so again, we feel that if you give yourself the proper protein and amino acids in quality and quantity, that's going to trickle down to the immune system and the emotional system, the nervous system in this case, and help your body have what it needs to replenish that. Most of the things in our body are turning over on a regular basis. Sometimes it can be recycled, sometimes they can't. So again, we always want to make sure our body has what it needs, especially when it comes to things like our immune system, our muscles, and our nervous system. So we definitely feel that a protein supplement helps that, as well as for our older patients out there. As patients get older, they don't absorb things as well. That's also the case with younger patients, like we just mentioned, with why probiotics can be beneficial. These whey protein products typically are going to be easier for your body to digest and absorb, which makes sure that it gets to the end goal. You could be eating protein in your diet, but you may not be able to fully digest and absorb it, so this kind of helps it out. The fourth product we typically like to recommend is some type of a fatty acid product. That's because fatty acids, or fats in general, make up a huge part of our body. For example, 1/3 of a cell by weight is actually fat, which is typically found in the outer cell wall. So obviously cells are somewhat spherical or circular, and that whole outer sphere of it is typically made out of fats. Just to give you an example of why it's important. It also is for connective tissue, muscle function, and also specifically nervous function, because a lot of the cell signaling proteins have fats on them, which allows them to embed in those cell membranes, which is called a bilipid membrane. And phosphorylated proteins are very commonly the cause or the root scene of where these transactions or signals are coming from. So we think it's really important. We're going to be honest, there has been some information lately about fish oils. It's going to be a little bit more controversial than it used to be, although it has always been somewhat controversial. If you have significant cardiovascular disease, you need to talk to your doctor about fish oils. That's the most recent lesson from the study that came out last month, if you're familiar with that. We still like fish oils. We still personally take them. That's because they are high in the fatty acids we need, specifically in this case, EPA and DHA, which are two of the most important fatty acids for our body and our immune system. They definitely act as anti-inflammatory components, so they help reduce the inflammation. They're also pretty prevalent in the brain and the nervous system for processing, cognition, things like that. So I definitely recommend that. They can also potentially help things like skin. And there's also, again, back to the nervous system component, a lot of evidence that show they can help boost health. There's also our mental health. And there's also been some examples of being used in concussion protocols for, again, cognitive recovery and things like that. The second product that we also talk about when we're talking about fatty acids are lecithins. Typically, it used to be soy lecithin. A lot of people are using sunflower lecithin. That's the one we currently recommend. The lecithins basically contain 12 to 14 different fatty acids. Again, the fatty acid is the common name for these fats that our biology is using. And one of the big differences is the length of the chain. So if it has 6 carbons, 8 carbons, 9 carbons, 10 carbons, 12 carbons, and so on, it affects the function and how it works. And your body needs most of those carbon lengths, typically from 6 to like 16. What these lecithins do is they contain the majority of those fatty acids. So it's almost like a multivitamin, how a multivitamin has all the vitamins and minerals you need. The fatty acid, or in this case, the lecithin, has all the fatty acids your body's going to need. And because we know that fats are a macronutrient, they're one of the 3 most important ones from a lot of processes. We're beginning to talk about cell membranes and how they're primarily made of fat. We have embedded fats in our cell membranes again, so those fats play an additional role besides making the membrane. There's a lot of functions that they have a role in. There's also been evidence that shows that phosphorylated fats play a role in actual brain function and nervous function. Phosphatidylcholine, phosphatidylserine, both of which occur in lecithins, have commonly been thought to help boost cognition. I personally take this product. That's one of the reasons I take it. And I do consistently feel an increase in my cognition. I personally feel that my brain works faster and it works easier, and that I don't really have to think about certain information. It just kind of comes to me. I do also notice that my reflexes tend to be much faster when I'm taking this product, and I attribute it to the fatty acids doing their role in the nervous system, as well as the phosphatidylserine and phosphatidylcholine, again, being two of the main cell membrane messenger proteins in terms of cell-to-cell signaling. So there's a lot of evidence to suggest why that makes sense. The next two we're going to talk about to round out this is going to be our basic anti-inflammatory products. In this case, you can either use an individual one or a broad spectrum combination one. On an individual product, we typically recommend turmeric as the primary one. That's because it is one of the most studied ones and it typically has the most benefits. Turmeric is a very potent anti-inflammatory first and foremost, so it will help reduce inflammation in your body, as well as because we're taking it orally, it's going to start in the gut. Unfortunately, colon cancer has become one of the top 5 most common cancers, so we think there's actually a lot of good reason and understanding to take turmeric just from a colon cancer standpoint. Our feeling is if you're putting a highly potent antioxidant into your stomach or your colon area, it's definitely going to act locally and should potentially help reduce the risk of colon cancers. And more on that in the future. Another example of why turmeric is so beneficial is something called NF-kappa B. NF-kappa B is one of the main proxy variables or things we can measure in blood as an indicator of your immune system. When NF-kappa B is high, that typically indicates the immune system's working in overdrive. There's a lot of things going on, whether it's cytokines, interleukins, and so on and so forth. Those are other common pathways in the immune system we're measuring here. When it's low, the idea is your information is lower, it's under control, and the body's better able to handle what you're giving at it. So there's a lot of evidence in humans that has shown that when you give a human turmeric, it will lower NF-kappa B, as well as lower the levels of those other things we mentioned, such as cytokines and interleukins, both from a transcription level and also in the blood. So basically the idea is that it's an anti-inflammatory product, which will also help it reduce free radicals. Again, we haven't talked about free radicals yet, but those are a big thing in health. That's basically when you have an extra electron, that electron becomes donated to something else, and in that process it causes damage. Those are free radicals. And turmeric is a very good substance for reducing those. But also, like we were saying, it can actually go in and regulate your genes, such as NF-kappa B in this case, which have a major role in your immune system and your nervous system, and basically bringing that back to a healthier level. So there's multiple benefits there. Again, also we personally feel that with colon cancer, there should be some reduction there because, again, we are delivering this strong anti-inflammatory locally to the gut. And also in this case of anti-inflammatories, you can take the turmeric separately or take the broad spectrum or both. I personally take both, so I get a higher dose of the turmeric. Turmeric can be dosed pretty high. There's a lot of evidence to suggest it can be taken in 5 grams a day or more. And typically in the broad spectrum product we use, you're not going to get that level. So I actually personally take both. The broad spectrum product we recommend contains 10 herbs. So again, broad spectrum, like we were saying, it's got a little bit, but a lot of it in terms of multiple versions. And the idea is that more ingredients sometimes elicit better responses because each herb can't do everything. So there's evidence to show that if you take these herbs in combination, they have a better effect. In fact, in Chinese medicine, typically you never use herbs by themselves. You never use just one herb. You typically use multiple. It's thought to have a synergistic effect, which is, again, why we like this broad spectrum. It's going to have anti-inflammatory, like we mentioned, antioxidant, like we mentioned, and it will have the ability most likely to go into your genes and help regulate the immune system and other processes in your body, bringing them into a healthier balance and basically getting them to where they want to be. So again, lowering the body's stress levels, making the body have more capacity and more ability to do its job what it needs to. We will add a caveat here that if you're taking certain pharmaceuticals, we do not recommend our broad spectrum anti-inflammatory product. There is the potential for some drug interactions there, and so that's another example of why you may just want to use turmeric on its own. So these are the 5 levels and products we typically recommend for most of our patients. Again, to recap, the first one is probiotic, second one is multivitamin, third one is protein powder, fourth one is some type of fatty acid product, and the fifth one is going to be an anti-inflammatory, whether it's on an individual or broad spectrum. I personally take actually all of those, so I do take fish oils and lecithins because they're not quite exactly the same. Again, the fish oil is more EPA and DHA heavy versus the lecithin is all the phospholipids or the fatty acids. And then for the anti-inflammatory, like I mentioned, typically herbs are used in combination, which is why I take the broad spectrum, but also because you can dose turmeric on a higher level, and turmeric is considered to be one of the most optimized anti-inflammatory products. I take both of those in high levels. These are the basic products we recommend for all of our patients. We personally feel, based off our experience, understanding of cellular biology and the literature, these are the products that are going to give you the most benefit. They're going to give you this really nice foundation for your body, and everything we can build up on top of that will be a benefit or optimized. These products are not terribly expensive, so this protocol we've outlined is typically going to be about $100 to $150 a month. which isn't as more expensive as some of the other protocols other patients are taking. It's more in the affordable range, but it is very comprehensive. It basically targets most of the aspects of your body, and for most people, you are going to notice the benefits pretty quickly. Again, there's a lot of science as well. So this is what we recommend. Again, just to take another step back, the reason why we think our information is something you should really listen to is we are registered pharmacists. We do have bachelor degrees in biochemistry and doctorate of pharmacology degrees. This does give us a much more extensive understanding of your body and how it works, but also medicine, pharmacology, and evidence-based medicine, as well as understanding regulations, whether it's with how the pharmaceuticals are made, the supplements are made, what they actually do when they go into your body. And we combine that all together to provide you these recommendations. We also do individual consultations. We also take emails and questions. So if you'd like an individual consultation, click the contact link below. If you'd like to ask a specific question or you have a suggestion for our next video, put that in the comments or send us an email with a recommendation. More than interested to tweak this dialogue based off what you guys want, as well as to provide individual information and re-education for these patients. We do sell all these products on our website, which is yourpersonalpharmacy.com, so please check that out. We also have additional information that's quite extensive. These videos, we try to keep them more introductory and more engaging. On our website, we actually are starting to build an entire encyclopedia of information that goes in a stepwise series to help you build your understanding. That's because we believe that you need to become educated to be properly motivated. It's only with that education and understanding that you're really going to be able to maximize these things. We don't want to be just telling people what to do. We want to educate people on what to do so they can make their own decisions, because we've come to learn that's the only way for these changes to be sustainable. Again, these are the products we recommend regarding supplements. There are more supplements that we take. There are more supplements that I take personally. But we wanted to give you the 5 that we recommend most for all of our patients and provide some basic information. If you find this video helpful, please click the subscribe link below. Continue to look for more information to come. Thank you.